guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic and welcome back to the channel. And today for you guys is another movie review. Now, I just want to give a quick shout out to Nanny and Poppy, who are probably watching, and of course Echo Killshot, because he was like, hey, you like Evil Dead, right? I said, yeah. You like horror? I guess. Have you seen Scream? No. You know anything about it? Not really. There's a new one coming out. Okay, go watch it. And I tried to watch it on YouTube for the longest friggin' time. It was free, the new film, and then I go to watch it on YouTube and you have to pay 15 bucks. So I said, I don't know. So Nanny and Poppy took me to the exchange, and kaboom, I now own Scream 1, 2, and 3 on Blu-ray. I'm going to be ordering 4 and 5 very soon, and today we're going to be recording, we're recording a video, just so you know, we're reviewing Scream 1. So this is going to be kind of a different video. We're going to have 2 segments. So the first segment is going to be a non-spoiler, and then the second is going to be talking about spoilers. So if you haven't seen Scream 1, you know, obviously don't spoil anything in the comments for Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 if you've seen 6 already. Because I've only seen 1 at the time of this recording. At the time of you seeing this, probably 2. So yeah, again, it's going to be the front part is going to be just, you know, no spoilers. So going forward with this, I always kind of knew about Scream, right? I knew about Ghostface ever since I was a little kid. At Halloween, some a-hole in a Ghostface mask scared the crap out of me, and it didn't bode too well in my life. And then obviously, you know, it is an R-rated film, and of course I never saw it as a kid or a teen. And now I finally watched it last night, and it's funny because, you know, either it's through reverse osmosis where you just like live and I'm like a sponge, and I just like absorb this stuff. I didn't know who the killer is, right? I didn't know who he or she was. I'm not saying it in this section of the review, but half of it was a surprise and half of it wasn't a surprise, so I'm going to say. There's a few clips I've seen online of certain characters doing certain things, and I'm like, oh, I've seen that. Or, oh, I kind of know what that is, but I don't really know if he or she is the killer, or if, you know, he or she, whatever's going on. I just saw clips online, right? I was never specifically told he or she is the killer, or this guy or this girl's in charge, or, you know, whatever. It was just kind of me just seeing stuff online. And, you know, I never really had an interest in this franchise before. I just kind of scrolled through it and didn't really care. But now that Echo kind of got me on this train for Scream 6, which is, I believe, out now, I had to watch it. So, first and foremost, this is what you would call a horror comedy, but it's also a horror comedy / parody, because they kind of have a strange way going about it. But it's the way that this film is written is so freaking ingenious. It's insane. Like the characters, it's not like Deadpool, you know, where they're like, oh, I know I'm in a comic book movie, or oh, we know we're in horror movies. But the movie literally effing opens with Ghostface the killer asking the character of Drew Barrymore, what's your favorite scary movie? And she's like, funny, you're a good joke. And then he just keeps asking, and then it quickly turns into horror. Now, that is my first issue with the film, but we'll move on to that for a second. But this kind of beginning of the film, where it's almost like this I guess, horror aspect of it, it really sets the stage for what is to come. And again, it is a horror movie. You know, there is blood and people die. But it's also kind of like a comedy, and it's also kind of like a self-referential kind of, I guess, big Easter egg towards horror itself, right? The janitor looks like Freddy Krueger from Friday the 13th or whatever, or Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the two. Yeah, Nightmare. And it's just cool that they have these little Easter eggs in there and these little, you know, references and all that. There's even moments in the movie where this, you know, I think Randy, he literally stands up in front of his friends, and he's like, they're watching Halloween, right? So they're in a horror movie, watching horror movies, talking about how to survive a horror movie. Yet they're in one, but they don't know it. You know what I mean? It's crazy good writing, and it's not just because of that, right? It's because they reference things like, you know, Billy and Sydney, the two main characters. I guess Sydney's the main character, but Billy kind of is, you know, wanting to. You know, he's dating Sydney and wants to go further, and he's kind of like, hey, our relationship is kind of PG-13, or that wasn't a thing. It's been, you know, started off as R, going into NC-17, and now we're a family-friendly type of thing. And the fact that they kind of reference these movies and just talk about movies in general, you know, regarding the ratings of films, or the content within certain films, or how to survive based on films, right? There's a lot of this almost pedagogy and this kind of talk about what is a horror movie, how do you survive it, and the ins and outs of basically knowing horror franchises. And again, I'm not the biggest horror fan in the world, but, you know, I'm Franchise Fanatic. I know some shite. And I haven't seen the Halloween movies, but I know about them, a lot of them, and I understand that there are certain tropes to horror films, and it's funny that they can kind of, you know, reference them and just kind of poke fun at that whole idea without necessarily becoming cringy or stupid. Because again, this film does have its silly moments, right? There are scenes where it's like, oh, I see what you did there, but it's never in the sense of, oh, they ruined it, it's over, you know what I mean? They effed it. It's just, it works. Because the movie is not Evil Dead. And I'm only comparing it to that because, Evil Dead is fantastic in my opinion. It's one of my favorite franchises ever. And it's very much, I don't want to say religious, but, it's got deadites and demons and the Necronomicon, Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead, and they have demons. And this isn't about demons and ghosts. It's about a dude with a knife. Yeah, of course he looks like a ghost, right? It's called Ghostface for a reason. It looks like a freaking ghost. But it's just a dude killing people. And that, for a lot of people, can be more scary than a demon, right? Now, I believe in God. I do believe in demons. I don't really want to see them. I'm just saying. I don't know if I believe in ghosts, so to say, but it's just kind of funny to me that I find that the demon thing more terrifying in Evil Dead than a guy with a knife. Even though I probably should fear the guy with the knife more, because I don't think a demon's going to rise out of the earth anytime soon, which again, I don't want to jinx that and have that happen to me in the middle of the night. I'm just saying. So it is kind of funny to have that happen where I'm like, oh, look, the point of the thing is, I wasn't that scared with this film. That's not to say this is an ineffective horror movie, because it is. It's. I found it more intense and more of a thriller than an all-out horror, Like, I don't know, I'm not desensitized. Obviously, I don't like violence, but it's in movies and it's all fake. So, I'm cool with it. If I saw a dude get stabbed 1,500 times in real life, I'd probably puke my guts out. But in a movie, it's all fake, corn syrup, CGI, it doesn't matter. So, that aspect of, again, people are dying in the school, and, Sydney and her friends are kind of joking. They're like, oh man, I wonder who did it, or I wonder who it is. Maybe it's you, maybe it's you, maybe it's my mom, maybe it's Snoke, you know what I mean? Who knows? And it's kind of referencing that fact that these people are desensitized to this violence, and the movie doesn't tell you, the message of the film is not, movies create violence, because statistically they don't, right? Normal people go watch a movie, they're like, oh man, better go kill everyone now, because the movie did. It's like The Last Jedi. Again, to bring that film up, you guys know it's my favorite film. Kylo Ren tells Rey, let the past die. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. That's not the message of the movie, right? That's the villain telling the hero the message of the movie. Obviously, that's not the message of the freaking movie. So, same thing here. It's not that, people watching films are going to be violent all of a sudden. It's just that, there's some clever lines in there where, again, it's all referencing other films, but it's also referencing kind of this meta stage in reality where they're discussing openly, oh man, they're discussing movie ratings and all that, but they're also kind of not acting the way they should. And even Ghostface the Killer, so many movies like, I guess, Evil Dead to an extent, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Brightburn, Halloween, there's a lot of these horror movies where these villains, maybe obviously, you're watching a horror movie and you're like, oh, I know this girl or this guy's gonna die, right? Obviously, we're in a horror movie. Of course they're gonna effing die. But they try to put up a fight, they punch them, but, nothing happens, right? Because the main villain, the horror killer, is like a tank, you can't F with the guy. He's gonna kill you, you throw a beer bottle in his face, Michael Myers is just gonna probably walk right past you, at least in the old movies. This, the hot chick, the half of them are hot, the blonde girl, getting the beer, right? She's chucking things at Ghostface, and it's hitting him, and he's like, oh, he's hitting it, and then he's slipping, he's sliding. In a sense, it could be a little goofy, but it works because it shows that this isn't a demon from hell, or this isn't some, whatever. This is just a person, guy or girl, in a costume with a knife, and they are human, and they are weak. They're not just a stone warrior just walking through everything like a freaking tank, like I said. They have their weaknesses. So it's really smartly written. Very well acted for the most part. I really don't have any problems with the acting. And it's funny because this movie came out in, 1996? And, this is basically before CGI. I don't think there is any CGI in this film. And it's just refreshing to see that. But, again, all these messages regarding the movie violence or the desensitization or the motives and just the overall atmosphere that the film gives, the silly moments, the intense moments, the, self-referencing humor that they have where, there's a character going, oh man, he's always behind you, or, a character's watching TV and he's going, behind you, and then the other person watching him is saying, behind you, so stuff like that. Of course, they don't treat the violence as funny, They don't treat that as comedy, they treat that as violence, as it should, and it's not good. And that's where the horror comes in. Again, I was never like, oh my god, not. You know what I mean? I wasn't scared by this film because I don't find a guy in a costume with a knife scary. Obviously, in real life, that's probably not something you want to see in a dark alley. But in a movie, I don't really fear that. It doesn't scare me. The film is intense, though, and it does wrap up. And where these certain moments happen in the end, again, I'm not going to mention it in this part, but when stuff hits the fan, I was genuinely on the edge of my seat the whole effing movie. You know what I mean? It was either the comedy that was getting me hooked, or the acting, or the writing, or the in-depth layers of this film. You know, it's not just a typical horror movie where a guy's in a costume with a knife and he kills people. That's part of it. But it goes deeper than that into these, meta commentaries about, life and tragedy, and even just movie commentary itself, and how people, there are people in this film that literally kind of reference films, and they're like, oh, well, in this movie, everyone's a suspect in horror movies, so everyone's a suspect in this. So it's kind of crazy that they're able to do that and actually make it work and have it not be scary. Of course, the kills are gory. They're violent, and they're not, they're definitely not a PG-13 film, but I wouldn't say this is the most intense. Obviously, I think Evil Dead is more gory, but they're not really trying to do that, you know what I mean? They're not trying to make you throw up because there's so much gore. They're trying to present a story, and it is a good story. So I'm going to give Scream, again, my only negatives, I really don't have that many. I think really the only ones would have to be that there are a few moments of ADR where Sidney or some other character says, for example, pizza bacon. They don't say that, but for example, they say pizza bacon, but their mouth says bagoga woga. You know what I mean? I'm just examples. But that's what it is. They say something and it doesn't match. Again, that is an editing error. It's an ADR thing, whatever. Those are really it, though. I mean, like I said, I was going to count the negative, because look, it takes you a minute to get hooked into this film, because Drew Barrymore, her character, is on the phone, and she picks up the phone, and Ghostface goes, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And I'm like, all right, me in real life, okay, look, I would just hang the hell up. I wouldn't be like, oh, Evil Dead. I'd be like, get the fuck, I'm going to call the cops and you're going to die. There's another moment where Sidney's like, where are you? And Ghostface is like, I'm on your frickin' porch. And she's like, oh, no, you're not. So she opens the porch and, walks out on the porch. Stupid, okay? That's how you get killed. I know she's badass and she's trying to play coy and play smart, but maybe that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. Is if someone if someone called me and said I'm in your basement, I'm not going to go in the basement. I'm going to jump out a goddamn window and call the police. All right, I'm not going to go in the basement, and check things out. I'm not stupid. So it's stuff like that where it's kind of like, this is I don't know, maybe I wouldn't do that, but who knows? Maybe that's just part of the commentary that they're trying to do. Because they do actively talk about that. They actively say, if you're in a horror movie, you don't do this. If you're a girl with big boobs, you're going to die. If you're a girl with drinks and has sex, you're going to die. If you say, I'm coming back, you're not going to come back, you're going to die. So they reference that stuff, right? These classic horror movie tropes. And then they go ahead and they do these classic horror movie tropes where she just walks out in the porch. You know what I mean? So it takes a minute to get into, especially with literally the first 5 to 10 minutes of the film is just movie trivia. Horror movie trivia in a horror movie. And that sets up the stage for, of course, the meta commentary and the whole meta, I should say, fourth wall breaking-esque. It's not really fourth wall breaking. They don't go, hey, I'm in a horror movie. But you know what I'm saying. They do that kind of stuff. And it worked. At the end of the day, it's a fun movie. It is kind of depressing when you think about it, and the motives behind the killer, whether that be a dude or girl, not going to spoil it here, it works. And I think that everything about this movie shouldn't have worked for me, because I like horror, I enjoyed Evil Dead, but I didn't really have high expectations going into this film. I just didn't. It was very much a case where I'm like, oh, maybe it'll be good, maybe it's going to be crap, who knows. And I didn't realize it had this many layers to the film, right? There are, it's deeper than, like I said, it's deeper than the, in-house jokes of, oh man, that's a horror movie reference. It goes into the whole movie thing as a whole, and how people review movies and how people see movies and kind of treat them as if they were real life events, and how that can get you killed, and the motives behind the killer. It's insane, man. It really is. So I'm going to give Scream 1. Again, my really only issues are the ADR things, where, again, some people say things and they don't, like I said, they say bacon and they say chicken. You know what I mean? Or bacon and they say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. So there's a few things in there where it's a bit wonky with the editing, and again, it does take an extra second to kind of get into the mode that is Scream and understand what this film is. It's not a straight up horror film. It's not a straight up horror comedy. It's a horror comedy mixed with some parody elements to it. and I think it does ultimately make the film stronger for it, and I'm very glad I saw it. I'm going to give Scream an A. Again, hope you guys enjoyed. Now we're going to talk about the spoiler aspect and who the killer was. If you haven't seen the movie, please leave. I'm going to give a quick little edit, and then I'm going to, of course, come back and we will talk about it. So hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to get spoiled, thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed the review of Scream 1. I'm going to be having Scream 2 review hopefully very soon. Again, this contains 1, 2, and 3, and I have ordered 4 and 5. Hopefully I can see 6 in theaters. So again, these are going to be coming soon. I know I'm going to get to the MCU, but this was a sidetrack project. Echo wanted me to watch it, and I really enjoyed the first one, as you can tell. So we're going to push on with Scream 2 ASAP. So anyway, let's move on to the spoiler section, and yeah, hopefully you've seen it. 3, 2, 1. Alright, let's do this. Alright guys, hopefully you have left already if you have not seen Scream 1, because again, this is, final warning, the spoilers, because, look, I don't want to say this is a mystery film, but there is a certain element of mystery to it, and kind of like Knives Out or Glass Onion, which I still haven't seen, you know, you don't want it to be ruined for you, unless you don't care, I don't know, but for me, I obviously don't want to get spoiled, whether that be Star Wars or Marvel or even this, so again, just fair warning, talk about who the killers are right now. So, AKA the killer is... And I mentioned in the thing, I said he or she. Turns out it's 2 he's. It is Billy and Stu. Now look, Billy, he kind of looks like Joker mixed with young Johnny Depp. He just looks like a killer, alright? Like, the word killer is written all over his friggin' forehead. Practically. You know what I mean? It's like invisible ink, but it's practically there. You know, he looks like a killer. He looks insane. And the movie is so well written that it actually makes you believe, it made me genuinely believe that he wasn't a killer. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, well, okay, well, he looks like a killer, and he's kind of weird. Is pressuring Sydney to have sex, even though her mom died. That's why she doesn't want to. That's another theme and element of that. But it really is kind of crazy that you're looking at it and you're like, wow, okay, this guy looks insane. And then they literally like frame him, and he goes to effing jail, and then they release him, and they're like, no, he's innocent. And then there's even a scene where, you know, Sydney's kind of self-doubting, and she's like, maybe you are the killer, I don't know. And then they have sex, which you don't see it, but, you know, it's implied. And then, you know, they're getting dressed, and he's like, you still think I'm the killer? And she's like, nah, yeah, you know, she's like, no, you know, and then all of a sudden, Ghostface comes down and stabs the crap out of him, and I thought he died. And then he rolls down the effing stairs, and then all this stuff happens, and of course Ghostface goes bananas in a really good third act. And then, of course, it ends with Stu and Randy kind of going up these stairs, and that's what I meant with the tense and the, you know, intensity of it. I truly was at the edge of my seat at this moment, because they're both climbing up these stairs talking to Sydney, and they're like, he did it, no, he did it, no, he did it, he did it, you know, like that. And it's like, oh my god, who the F did it? You know, it's like Scooby-Doo times 20. You know, it's crazy. And of course we know that Billy did it. And he faked his own death, and it was like, you know, fake blood. And again, Billy really is like the movie referencing kind of guy that I was trying to allude to in the other video without going into spoilers. But you know, he's the one talking about the R and NC-17 thing. He's always bringing up horror jokes. Right before he shoots Randy, he mentions Norman Bates, which I don't know what that movie's from. I think something with Christian Bale, maybe, I don't know, American Psycho, who knows. But there is a crazy aspect where, you know, he's like, oh, pig's blood from Carrie, and he's just saying these things, and he just shoots Randy. Randy, of course, lives, but if it's a really good way to reveal who he is as the killer, because again, they do such a good effing job of telling you he's not the killer, he didn't do this, he's innocent. He looks weird, you know, he looks like the typical, you know, thug, bad boy that she'd be into, but he also looks like a murderer, and the fact that the movie was so stingent on telling me he wasn't, I was like, oh man. And of course, Stu, played by Matthew Lillard, like, who voices Shaggy, dude? Like, he's the new Shaggy, which, by the way, Matthew, you're getting kind of up there, bro. That guy should do it. Just saying. Hit me up, Warner Brothers, I guess. But please, I want to be a voice actor, please. But this is all kind of insane, because as I was mentioning in the other part of the review, where I've seen, like, through osmosis, and I've seen things, there's a clip online that I saw of Stu covered in blood with the phone. And I never watched the clip, you know, I knew they made the phone joke or whatever that he made up, but I never knew that he was one of them. I thought he got stabbed by the killer and was trying to call for help. You know what I mean? I never watched the clip. So as I was watching this movie, I was like, oh my god, you know what I mean? I never would have imagined it was 2 people. I thought it was either a dude or a girl. And Billy shows up, you know, as the killer. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then Stu walks in, and I'm like, oh, they effing got me, you know. And, of course, Stu is more of the comedy of the film. You know, he's more like the jokester. And that's where a lot of the humor comes in for me. The movie generally is funny, to an extent. You know, a lot of the jokes land for me. But there's moments where Stu really makes me laugh in the end. You know, there's this realization that, you know, going with that other I guess, message of the film that, you know, movies don't create violence. They just kind of, you know, endure creativity. It's crazy because, again, that movie meta commentary that Billy keeps talking about and that Stu is involved in, it really rears its really beautifully made ugly head at the end where, you know, they're talking about motive. And Billy, at first he doesn't say it. He's like, oh, well, you know, did he have a motive in that movie? Did he have a motive in that movie? No. You know what I mean? We don't need a motive. It's scarier without it. I'm just effing crazy. And then, of course, he does end up having one, which he tells her. And then Stu is like, oh, I don't know, peer pressure, I guess. But that's the funny thing, is that they've seen so many horror movies, just like Randy, where Randy's going on this big spiel that, oh, this is what you don't do in a horror movie. Everyone's a suspect. These killers believe that, you know, we've seen so many horror movies that, you know, the movies didn't turn us insane. It just, you know, kind of helped with the creativity of it. Now, obviously, if you are mentally unstable and you watch something like this, maybe it would incite something. But for normal people like me, and hopefully you, which I'm assuming you're normal. I mean, if you're watching me, you most definitely are. But, you know, you see that and it's like, okay, you know, I watch Joker. I'm not going to go pop some guy in the head because I'm mad, you know what I mean? I'm not mentally unstable. And, of course, these people, you know, Billy and Stu, they are effed up in the head. That's why they're doing it, right? Normal people don't do this. But it goes deeper than that where, you know, Stu is... At first he's like, oh, peer pressure. But he's so into it. You know, it's like he believes he's in a horror movie. Maybe it's the adrenaline, but, you know, he's making all these crazy little gestures and, you know, whatever. It literally sounds like Shaggy on crack, by the way. But it's really funny because there's that aspect of, you know, one guy's more serious and he just kind of lives by these movie things. And then, you know, the other guy, you know, Stu, Matthew Lillard's character, he's more jovial about it because he's just kind of nuts, you know what I mean? And, it really, really lends a really, I think, strong effort to the film's writing where it's like I said, it's like Shrek with the, you know, the layers, donkey. You know, there's so many, like onions. Each film has layer upon layer of these, you know, I guess, themes and messages of the film where you're watching it and you're like, wow, this is really unfolding really, really well. And, of course, at the simplest form, like I said, they're completely screwed in the head, and they're nuts, and they should be shot. You know what I mean? Or in jail or whatever, probably shot. But, you know what I mean? That's it. But when you look into it more and you realize the themes and the meta-commentary that the film is at its inception, the fact that they're making these movie jokes, it's not just to make movie jokes and say, oh, look at that, funny, we're referencing stuff, you get it? It ties into the plot itself. And that is, I think, excellent, masterfully done writing. I think it's really, really good. Now, is this my favorite horror movie of all time? No, I think Evil Dead is still better. I've only seen Scream 1. But as of right now, it's a very well done film. And having two killers in it is, I think, really crazy. Because I never suspected it, you know. There's even moments where they're talking about it and, you know, Billy is literally like telling Stu, hey, maybe you did it, or maybe you did it, or, you know, you never suspect him. And yeah, Billy looks crazy, you know, I mean, he looks like a killer. But again, like I said, they did such a good job of kind of proving to me that he wasn't. You know, it ended up working. It wasn't like I saw that coming a mile away, you know, like it actually made sense to the plot. And overall, man, it's just a really good movie. So thanks, Echo Dude, you made me maybe get into it. So there's another franchise I guess I'm invested in. Now maybe I'll hate 2 through 6. I don't know. I will be watching Scream 2 as soon as I possibly can. Again, I'm kind of rearing the end of my spring break here, which of course means back to homework and all that crap. But you know, I hopefully will be watching it as soon as possible. Trust me, I'm not going to put it off any further than I want to because I want to see what happens. You know what I mean? I don't want to get spoiled. I just want to see them for what they are and all that. But anyway, I enjoyed Scream 1. Again, that was really the only spoiler thing. You know, I mean, those are the killers, and I think it really worked for what they were trying to do. It's just very endearing, very funny, very intense. Again, I wouldn't call this a scary film. I was never scared at once in the entire film. Yeah, there's some offbeat and some kind of unnerving moments and some intense moments. But again, I wouldn't call it. Obviously, it is a horror film, but I wouldn't call it horrifying for me. You know what I mean? So that doesn't affect the review or the score. You know, whatever. I'm not really that scared by Evil Dead either. You know, maybe I'm just not scared by horror films. I don't know. I don't really get scared by much. It's weird. I get scared more by YouTube videos than I do actual movies because movies I know are fake. YouTube videos, they don't tell you it's fake, and some of that shit looks really real. So, you know what I mean? Like, watch a scary compilation on YouTube. It's 10 times scarier than any movie you've ever seen, I guarantee it. But, again, Scream 1 is a very good film. Again, my only negative would be the ADR and all that, but that's kind of a nitpick. Overall, man, the themes, the messages, the writing, the acting, the action scenes, the way that Ghostface kind of like reacts to, again, like I said, he's not this invincible god. He actually can get hurt. It's really, really cool stuff, man. And again, it's something I didn't think I would like going into it, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's fun. It's a fun movie to watch. It's funny and all that, and there's some horror, tense moments, but it's really well written. To the fact where, like I said, it has so many layers upon the writing and the contextual messages that they're trying to give you. It's like, I want to rewatch it right freaking now. And now that I know who the killers are and see if there's any motive or see if I notice something, So it's a very rewatchable film, and it's pretty insane to just, realize I haven't seen this before. So I'm very glad I watched it, and I cannot wait to dive into Scream 2. Again, no spoilers down below in the comments, or I'll probably ban you because I really want to go into these films without knowing anything. I have not seen the trailers. I just want to watch them. So hopefully I'll be covering Scream 2 soon. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this little spoiler part of the review. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.